Greetings and welcome back. We are here with builder, contractor, genius extraordinaire James Jansen. And you guys have had a lot of questions for us as far as how this building technique works and some of the potential downfalls and everything. So we want to cruise through some of the questions that we've seen a lot with James here so that we have some expert knowledge to defend ourselves with, if you will.
James, who are you?
I am James Jansen. I was born in western Kansas and moved to Alabama when I was 19. Lived there for 32 years and then moved here to Colorado 11 years, 12 years ago. So, yeah, that's the story.
What is your carpentry experience?
I started doing carpenter work when I was 15. My dad was a carpenter and we lived in Kansas at that time. I did carpenter work with him for 4 years, then moved to Alabama. Moved there at 19, started my own construction company, started contracting, building houses, and pretty well been doing it ever since. So do your math. I'm 63, so quite a few years.
This building technique is similar to that of an adobe home. We're calling it faux-dobe. What is unique about adobe homes?
Well, the benefit of adobe is it absorbs heat during the day and releases it during the night. We actually lived in an adobe house in Mexico, and it was very interesting. It took 12 hours for the heat to transfer through the walls. And maybe that's where I fell in love with adobe. I don't know. I really enjoyed living in that house, but when the sun shone on it during the day, the warmest time of the 24-hour period was in the morning. So it took 12 hours for that heat to transfer through the walls, and it come through in the morning. So yeah, it's really a cool building technique. I love adobe, but it's very labor intensive, so that's why we didn't use it on our house here.
This was the most popular question that we are continuously asked. Why are we not using mortar in between all of the bricks?
One thing well, there is a technique, and I think one of the respondents on your YouTube channel touched on this. There is a way, this has been done for years, and you dry stack the block, and then you stuck it with fiber mesh or fibers that are in the mortar, and it actually is stronger than mortar. Mortar really isn't that strong. If you would take a mortar wall and hammer on it with a sledgehammer, they pretty well just fall off. I mean, it's not that strong really. It does keep your block straight, but the reason we're not using mortar, it's very easy to do. It's builder friendly. You can make a lot of progress, and then when we fill it with concrete, it's not. It's far stronger than mortar. It's extremely strong, and then with concrete and rebar in the block, it makes an extremely strong wall. So there's really no need for mortar. Another thing it does is the way it will look, and you will see this, the viewers will see this going forward of what the wall looks like after it's done, and it does look like adobe. It looks amazing. So
Because
yeah.
In the imperfection, you can kind of see the seams, right?
Yeah, you do see the seams, but it's a little bit rougher. And I know some people are saying it's not a very smooth wall, but comparing to adobe, it's extremely smooth, and it's a lot smoother than adobe. But what we're really looking for is the adobe look. That's what we want. And so when it's all said and done, the walls will look more adobe than block, which is really what we're aiming for.
And we're not using mortar except for after this next pour. We will likely mortar that row so that we can have a ultra straight base to work from for the second story.
That's right.
Since we're stacking so high.
That's right. When you don't use mortar, after you go up about so far, it gets crooked enough that you have to stop, lay one row with mortar, straighten it back out, and then continue stacking. So yeah, that's the plan.
So adobe homes don't have insulation, right?
Most don't, no.
How are we going to do insulation on this house?
Okay, what I did on my other house, the house I built here, on the outside of this 10-inch concrete wall, I stripped it with 1x4s. I actually put a 1x2 flat on the wall, glued it and nailed it, and then put put a 1x4 on edge and nailed it to that. So there was a 1x4 sticking out away from the wall. And then I spray foamed that. And after it was spray foamed, 4 inches of foam, then I put stucco mesh over that and stuccoed it. And you end up with a 14-inch thick or 15-inch thick wall, 10 inches of mass, solid concrete, and 4 inches of insulation on the outside. The house that we built worked extremely well. We never used any supplemental heat at all. It was amazing, except when we had 3 or 4 days of cloudy weather. Then we would run heat for a few days, just until it got sunny. When it got sunny, instantly it warmed up. So it's an amazing building. It's a way to build. It's awesome.
And the heat that you used was a wood stove?
It's actually a masonry stove. It was what you call a Russian fireplace. I actually built a pizza oven slash masonry stove. It was a combo. So yeah, really cool stove. And I'm fixing to put one of those in my little shop over here that we put up in our barn raising. So that'll be cool. We'll make pizza over there. What we're thinking about doing, I actually have bought a grinder, but we're going to try recycling styrofoam. Styrofoam is a very poor product to recycle. I don't know of anybody that recycles it, but what we're going to do is grind it and then mix it with cement, not concrete, but cement, and then put it in that 4-inch or 5-inch space. And after it sets up, it should be completely flat. We're going to actually form it on the outside of the 1x4 and tamp it into that. And hopefully when it's all said and done, we'll have an insulation that's completely flat that we can just stucco right over. If it works, we'll save insulation and we'll save the cost of the insulation, because you can get styrofoam for free that people haul to the dump. And the other thing will be, you should be able to stucco right over it, because every piece of that styrofoam is going to be encased in cement. So we're hoping it'll work. We shall see.
What are your favorite advantages to building with concrete?
Strength is the main thing. I've been to a lot of tornadoes in Alabama. We did a lot of cleanup work after tornadoes. And stick frame homes, if you want to just go by any construction site, just look at a stick frame home with trusses. And it's very susceptible to wind, it's susceptible to fire. And you build a house out of concrete and big beams, it's not susceptible to wind or fire, and it's just much stronger, much better all the way around, in my opinion. And it's also got character. Most houses are, in my opinion, ugly.
Can this building method be used to meet code?
Yes, it would be. It would be. You could use it to meet code. It's just a concrete wall, and block walls have been used forever, and it's a code item. And then all you would be doing is insulating on the outside of your block walls. So yes, it would fall well within codes of any jurisdiction. So yeah, it could be used with code. You might have to lay it up with mortar.
In the rough cut lumber, would that be?
That would not be. You would have to use certified lumber, which is stamped, but you could do that. I mean, you could buy beams that were certified instead of cutting your own like we're doing. It's very doable. You could use beams that are, yeah, they do it all the time with post and beam. It's used all over, and this is really what would you say? It's a combo between adobe and post and beam, is the building technique. Both of those have interested me a lot through the years.
We are using steel and cement to create a very small home. Are we overbuilding?
No, there's no such thing as overbuilding. You are building a house that has thermal mass, and it's just like a battery in your solar system. You are building something here that when the sun comes up, 1-2 days, I mean, what you're doing is you're actually building a battery to store heat during the day, that it releases that heat during the night. So 10 inches of concrete is not overbuilt for that. It will work very well. Plus you have your floor, which is 5 inches of concrete with 2 inches of foam under that. So that also stores heat. Your concrete floor and your walls working together will be your heat storage for nighttime when it gets 10 below zero, it'll still be warm in your house. In this part of the country where we're at, the nights are always cool, so you can cool your house down. And so it won't overheat. You can just open your doors and dump the heat, so that's not a problem. So there's no such thing as overbuilding. In the wintertime, you will appreciate very much the thermal mass, because the thermal mass will, when the sun shines during the day, warms up your house. And we took a temperature, like a infrared temperature probe on our floor in the house we built. And often the floor would be up to 113 degrees. I think that's the hottest we ever saw. The floor would get up to 113 degrees during a sunny day. So yeah, very toasty. Come
In the winter?
in the wintertime.
Okay.
It's the warmest in the winter because the sun is lower. It actually was warmer in the winter than in the summer. Oftentimes it would be 10 below during the night, and during the day we'd open up our windows and doors to flush the heat out.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, the other thing is, it's so wonderful about this is the fresh air that you get in your house. You dump your air every day, so it's amazing. You open your windows every day in the middle of the winter. It's awesome.
And this is why you suggested so strongly that we have east-west windows operable, because that's the direction our wind flows.
That's correct. The big thing about the east windows is when the sun comes up in the morning, the sun shines in the east windows and instantly warms your house up. It could be 65 degrees. Oftentimes our house would drop down to 65 during the night. And then in the morning, when the sun would shine in the windows, it would instantly rise. And in just an hour, it would be to 80 degrees in our house. So it's a very nice way to start a winter morning, is sun shining in and warming your house up. It's awesome.
What happens when this home settles? Will it crack and crumble?
When it settles, there's no such thing as settling when it's built on solid rock. And this has to do with your foundation. It really goes down to the foundation. And when the concrete contractor was here, he dug down to solid rock. So the wise man built his house on the rock, and it's not going to crumble. It's going to stay there because it's built on the rock.
It was more expensive because of that, but that'll save us in the future, I guess.
Yeah, no, our house never settled. We lived in our house for 12 years, and we didn't see one crack anywhere in the walls ever. There was never one crack that appeared ever in the concrete walls. So the performance on that house, it was also on the rock. If it's anything like that, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
I know you answered this a little bit already, but why would you not choose a standard American stick frame home?
I built with stick frame for years, and I guess it just, to me, now, forgive me, but it just doesn't have soul. It's too generic, and it's difficult to really get artistic with a stick frame house. And it doesn't have, it's just square corners, everything's square. I just don't enjoy building that way. I did it for years, and finally I got to the point it just got so boring nailing a stud to a top plate, and it just got so boring I just couldn't take it anymore. I just quit. It's standardized. I think that's the main thing. All your plumbers know how to work with it, your electricians know how to work with it, your cement contractors know how to work with it, your cabinet builders know how to work with it. It's standardized. Mm-hmm. You build a house like this, your electrician, he's going to come here and he would be kind of grouchy. Mm-hmm. Your plumber would be grouchy. It just wouldn't be, it's not standardized, and they would charge you more to do the mechanicals in this house than they would a stick frame, because they know how to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, when you do it yourself, it's really very simple. It's no more difficult than a stick frame, but you have to think it through. And they don't want to do that. They want to send their men out, get the job done, move on. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that's probably the main draw on stick frame homes, is the fact that it's a standardized system that everybody knows, all the way from the inspector to the plumber to the electrician to the sheetrocker to everybody who doesn't know how to build a stick frame house. It's standardized.
No surprises.
No surprises. That's exactly right. But it'll perform exactly like it performs, and it's just kind of mediocre in every way. And it's yeah, what would you say? That probably explains it as good as anything. It just does medium everything and doesn't do anything really well.
We considered for a while doing a log cabin, but you talked us out of it, and I'm curious why.
Well, I was in Alabama, and we worked with cabins there. And a cabin is, and forgive me everybody that loves cabins, but it's a maintenance nightmare. There is a lot of maintenance on a cabin. Every log has, it's round, but as the water hits that, there's joints between the wood in every log. And as that water goes down there, it will tend to wick in right there at the joint, and it will rot the logs. Also, as far as refinishing it, it's an expensive process. Anybody that has refinished a log cabin can tell you it's a very expensive process. Most of the time it has to be sandblasted and then redone. It's really not friendly that way. On the inside, it's also difficult to work with because you've got all the little bumps all everywhere. Fitting anything up against it, like if you have a smooth wall coming up, your cross walls coming up against your logs, it's really difficult to work with all those logs inside. Hey, if people like logs, that's great. But my personal experience, I did a lot of repairs on log cabins in Alabama, and I really don't like it. It's maintenance. It's a lot of maintenance.
Insulation is another thing that's
Right.
troublesome.
Well, there's several things. Insulation, it doesn't have the insulation this will, but it also doesn't have the thermal mass. I mean, if you're talking passive solar, which is really what we're aiming at here, what we're trying to build here is a house that needs no supplemental heat. Just the sun does it day in, day out.
And we're in a climate that suits that.
That's right.
Where we don't need a lot of supplemental heat or cooling.
That's right.
Because we can open all the windows at night in the summer and let all that cool air in, and then vice versa in the winter.
That's correct. And so for this climate, for what we're trying to accomplish, this really is far superior than a stick frame house, or logs for that matter. Log cabins are quaint. I mean, they are cool. I like the look. When I'm driving out through the woods, I love to see a log cabin. But as a contractor, a homeowner, I hate maintenance, and a log cabin is just a pain. It is.
Many people want to build their own homes. How might one go about taking steps to do that?
You need help. I think as the older generation, we have a lot we could give back to the younger people. And I've often said this, that the older people complain about the younger not respecting them. And I wonder if that's not partly our fault, because we work hard and then we retire and then we think, what do we say? Well, we're most entitled to just go off and enjoy life. And we talk about entitlement, but sometimes I wonder if us retired people feel more entitled than most because we've worked hard for this and now we're going to go enjoy it. When really what we need to do is be giving back to the next generation. And what I've found is y'all respect me very highly, which I appreciate, but I think it's because of the mutual giving that we do to each other. I think that's where respect comes from. But back onto this as far as people building their own home. It is difficult to just start building with no experience and no help. It would be very difficult. But I would like to see older people that have the skills help the younger set do this. And they have the time, just like I do. I have the time to do it. I have the skill sets, and I'm glad to help you do it. And I just think I'd like to encourage this. I wish there was a way we could start something to encourage the older set that has the skills to help the younger do these things. I think it'd be very beneficial and very rewarding.
Along the same lines as that last question, what advice would you give to somebody who's wanting to save more money?
In what way do you mean by save more money?
I think in general, I think it's hard for people to get past their debts and to save money.
Mm-hmm.
So just in any arena of saving, kind of in the same lines of wanting to save for your own building of a house, what steps would you take to advise somebody to save?
Well, I think you're the pros on that. I mean, if anybody has done an amazing job of saving money, it was y'all. Move into a 12-foot scamp, live on $300 a month, and save every dime you make. I'd say that's a great way to save money. How about, what do you think?
Well, I think that's a great way, but I wanted your thoughts.
I've always been able to, of course, I have the skill sets, so I've been able in my life, I've been able to do a lot with a little. I turn nothing into something. That's my strong point. And so for me, that's how I made progress. I never did have a mortgage on a house. I've always built with cash. But the first house I built a 2,500 square foot house. I think it cost me $40,000. But you have to have a budget when you're building, and everything falls in that budget. I mean, you just make everything yourself. Your light fixtures, everything. You do it all yourself. And yet I know there are people that would be very difficult to do, but that's how you build economically. I'm not going to say cheap, because cheap is the wrong word. It's economical.
There was one year, the year that you were building one of your homes. You've built how many homes now?
Well, we're on our third go round, so yeah.
You mentioned that you had taken a year off for tax purposes.
Okay.
Explain that.
Okay. So when you build your own home, there's far more savings than it seems on the surface. Because if you would take a year off from work and build your house, your expense on your house is not tax deductible. In other words, if you hire a contractor, that's all taxable income. When you pay the contractor, that's all taxable, because you have to make money and pay him. So when you build your own house, you are saving on the expense of the house. Plus, you're not making any income. So then you don't pay tax on that year of labor that you don't make. You're not paying taxes on that. Also, yeah, if you do that, take 6 months out of 1 year, 6 months out of the other year, you'd have 2 years most likely that you wouldn't need to pay any tax at all. So there's a lot more benefit here than what you first see. Then the interest that you save on the house when you're paying your mortgage, if you have a mortgage, when you're paying your mortgage, that's a lot less because of your savings that you've had in your labor. Most people have a job, and they're making, let's say they're making $60,000 a year, and they would decide they're going to build their own house. So they would quit working. If they could do this, if they would quit working, their income would go to zero. So then if they did this over 6 months in 1 year, 6 months in another year, you would cut your income by $30,000. So you drop down to $30,000, which you most likely would pay no tax whatsoever those 2 years. But you would be gaining equity in your house. You'd be saving money, which would be great. But that's what I mean by that.
What do you dream of achieving in the next 5 years?
Dream of achieving?
Probably a lot.
I don't really dream of achieving anything.
Why not?
I dream of living every day to the full and accomplishing everything I can every day. So what's 5 years from now going to look like? I have no idea. We do want to build another house. We bought another piece of property. We want to build another house on that, live in it for a couple of years and sell it. So yeah, that's one thing. But beyond that, we have no plans. Oh, there is one question I noticed on the comments over and over again, and that is, how do we justify using wood and cement together? Most people say it's going to rot. Okay, we live in a desert area. Our average rainfall here is 7 inches a year, so it's very, very dry. And most of the time, the codes that are written for wood that's on the floor, like on a concrete floor. And at that point, I would highly recommend using pressure-treated plates because of the moisture that wicks up through the concrete. With this, our headers are up in the wall. They're 7 feet off the ground in the wall. And with our dry climate, like it is, you will have no moisture. In the house we lived in, we never had any moisture in the walls at all. We never saw moisture on the wood at all.
we've kicked around this idea, and I wanted to see what you would think of it. We've talked about it a little bit, but doing a quick, or not even quick, but just kind of sitting down with you and Doreen and talking about your lives and the things you've been through and stuff, because you've had a fascinating life. So I'm curious to hear, like, if people would be interested in that, and if you would give, or if you're interested in giving, like, a quick rundown of your recent past to see if people are interested in that.
So how recent do you want it?
I don't know. You can.
Well, I
use
can
your
I
own
can give you
distraction.
just I can just give,
just give them a teaser.
well, yeah, we've gone through a lot. We were in a very conservative church group, and that's where we learned a lot of our skills. There's a lot of good in it, but yeah, we've come out of that, and we're no longer a part of that. But I'm not negative, but I'm not. Yeah, I think I enjoy the life we're living, but that would be just a little background. I don't know how far and deep you want to go in this,
You want to give us a little extra?
such as ask the questions you want answers on. I can talk forever.
So it wasn't just conservative. It was like, I don't know the best word, but like legalistic comes to mind, where there are lots of rules and lots of things that you can't do, and you're kind of contained into only having the community of the religion or the church.
That's right.
So now, just in the recent past, you've had to rebuild community because they like pushed you out of that effectively.
That's correct. When you leave that church, the church we were in, you are expelled, and when you're expelled, you're ostracized. They hold what they call the avoidance or shunning. So yeah, we lost 60 years worth of friends, and that's why to us friends are extremely important. Always have been, but with the life we're living now, when we make new friends, it's amazing. We really appreciate it.
And I think it's a blessing that it all kind of happened and coincided with us meeting so we can build community together, because that's kind of what like we've dreamt of for years. And then now you have experience doing that, and you're in a place to. So I don't know. It's been a beautiful thing, and I couldn't be more grateful for it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, we are too. Grateful for friends. It's awesome. And young friends. That's awesome. You need both, young and old.
Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you tuning in. And if you have more questions, we can pop them over James' way when we're building together here in the next, I don't know, few weeks. So shoot them over. Don't forget to like it if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more. And yeah, we'll see you next week.